the Asia SAF Association's, let's say, March webinar session. Today we have, very experienced speakers from Topsoe and PSC to join us today. I'll just use the first few minutes to kind of run through what we have been doing, what has so far been developing the SAF market in the ecosystem. So let us begin without further ado. Let's see over there. Give me a second. We do have going quite really strongly since 2024. We've been trying to really, let's say, grow the ecosystem with industry and policymakers to make sure that we have clarity in terms of the SAF policy landscape, in terms of opportunities, to make sure everything is really on track in terms of global decarbonization. And with us, we have really very exciting news to share that we have now 42 international members and partners across the whole ecosystem. Some are familiar names, global players. Some are new names that are really entering this space of SAF right now. It takes, what I'm saying, it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a whole global landscape of companies and stakeholders to work together to grow the SAF ecosystem. So really want to welcome again some new members on board. Some we've mentioned before, but recently we have now Idemitsu Kosan from Japan, Thai Oil from Japan joining us, and Banchak as well from Thailand. These are all serious investments into SAF in terms of production capacity, securing feedstocks, and we'll be featuring them in future webinars shortly. So we have also a bit of updates. Let me see. We covered some of this already. Let's see. Today, actually, we have here in Singapore, not today, but tomorrow, we have our so-called public outreach series with the Harvard alumni here in Singapore. We do know that there is a growing interest in making tourism more sustainable. For us, we do know that there's a good window to reach out to the wider community in terms of talking about how, I say, aviation works. And today, in the last few days, unfortunately, we've seen how geopolitics can really change the whole landscape dramatically, right? In terms of, let's say, fuel prices, shocks to the system. And I think we want to kind of double down the message that energy diversification, expansion is really key to ensuring that we have a more sustainable future. With the from fly to fly, pardon me, we really have about, I guess, 60 signups here in Singapore. We're gathering tomorrow evening to really go deeper into how can we all play a role to making SAF more sustainable and accessible for everyone. So with that, I think we also do want to close the message that next month, one of our most prominent events here in Asia Pacific, here in Singapore, with the August Biofuels and Feedstocks Asia Conference happening mid-April. We understand the early bird rates are still ongoing. Feel free to grab those last-minute discounts before prices go up. I think we hear that there's numerous senior speakers coming to Singapore. Ourselves at Astafa, I'm also representing to give a panel about future technologies. So please sign up for the SAF Focus Day if you haven't done already. We think this is one of the most important conferences around, even for the senior experienced people, also for newcomers into the industry. And with that, we want to kind of wrap up things, but we've been quite busy, to say the least, right? We've now actually looked at having multiple events across the region. Over here in Vietnam, we actually do have a very new announcement to make. We will be holding our very first SAF event here in Vietnam in Da Nang province. Some of you might be familiar, but we expect a really strong support from the local Vietnamese industry. And this is happening from 6th to 8th of May. Please mark your calendars. We'll be making further announcements from our websites and LinkedIn portal. We have strong support from, let's say, the governments, central governments, industry, And we believe the potential of SAF in Vietnam is very bright. They are studying a lot of feedstocks. They have a growing biofuels industry. And most importantly, I think they have a strong commitment from the government to meet their NDC commitments. So please stay tuned. And obviously, we have our second flagship event here in Thailand as well in late June. The details are on our website as well. You can scan the QR code. We're announcing speakers, policymakers attending, various members only events, sponsors as well. It's going to be really exciting because we'll feature booths, very in-depth sessions about how can we explore the potential for ethanol to jet in over here in Thailand. And I think we'd like to really kind of sum it up here and hand the floor over to speakers for today. And the last note, we do have one more webinar coming up here in April. We will be featuring speakers from ASTM International. For those that know, ASTM is the global standard to regulate jet fuel quality. And this is really, without a doubt, the most important pillar for SAF development. We hear speakers from Mark and Gautam, the really veterans in this space, that how is SAF developed, what new technologies coming, and various challenges they've really overcome over the last 15, 20 years. We're also supported by S&P Global Energy. We'll have Nikki on stage with us virtually to really talk about the latest developments in the SAF ecosystem. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor to our first speaker. I'm seeing that. Let me put it up. Melika, it's Sylvain here? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
You hear me?
Because I don't see you somehow. But all right. Samuel, are you here? Sorry.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. Who's okay to go first without any IT issues? We really apologize today to the audience, right? For having a lot of
No,
IT
you discussed
issues.
about this. I agree that I will start first, and Sylvain will do the second.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Please
Thank you.
take over stage. I think there's a clicker. You can click on it.
Can I?
Okay. Yes.
Oh, is it? Let me see.
Hmm.
How can I click?
Otherwise, I can do it for you too. No problem.
Yeah, I think so. You have to probably help me.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people turn up, but I really appreciate the
We're
time.
41 right now online.
Okay, thank you. Gabriel and Safa, thank you so much for your kind invitation. My name is Samuel Wong. I'm based in Hong Kong. I work for PAC, although I do have job in the standardization like ISO committee, also member of ASTM and ISV roundtable. I'm also involved in the standardization committee in China, working on the specific jet fuel and SAF spec. Next, please. Next slide, please, Gabriel. Yeah. Today I'll talk about several things. One is from the top level in terms of regulation and certification. And I'll leave it to our expert from top to talk about more detail about pathway and other things. Next, please. So I'm sure that from this audience, let's say 50 audience, some are maybe from refining background. Some are from probably non-refining background. Actually, we are tracking about over 100 SAF projects in Asia. According to our analysis, that actually over 70% of investors we track actually are from non-refining background. And so for those refining background, you are very familiar with transport fuel, being diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel. But if you are not from refining background, this slide may be helpful. In terms of regulation or decarbonization scheme for different transport fuel, look at the road transport, maritime transport, and aviation. Each fuel factor had its own decarbonization scheme or regulation body. For instance, diesel and gasoline for road transport car, for instance, the regulations is done by the local governments. Let's say Singapore government, Malaysia government, Singapore government, or Indian government or China government. So in Europe, of course, there are Euro 6 spec, and in China, there is a China 6 spec as example. So the regulator are local government bodies for road transport, while for ocean-going vessels and sea-going vessels, so the regulation in that sector is really determined by IMO, being International Maritime Organization, which is an organization under United Nations. So IMO set up a decarbonization scheme many years ago. They start with a low sulfur marine fuel, and recently it's a net zero framework. So IMO set a regulation and decarbonization scheme for maritime industry. And let's move on to the subject of today, aviation. Aviation, there is sorry, previous slide, sorry. Go back. Yeah, please, thank you. So the aviation industry, the regulation of decarbonization is set by ICAO, which is also a member of United Nations. ICAO set the scheme in very different way, different road transport as well as marine fuel. The scheme is called CORSIA. Next, please. Next slide. So it's a very odd name, but it's every word counts. Every one means a lot. So CORSIA means carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international aviation. Each word counts, and it's different from road transport or maritime transport. So require lots of accounting and auditing because it's offsetting and reduction scheme, and it's only designed for international flights, not for domestic flight. And it's compulsory. So the scheme has 3 phases: voluntary phase, which already passed, and voluntary phase now, which will end in about say now is March, by December this year. The voluntary phase will end. And then the mandatory phase will kick in January the 1st of 2027. So what does it mean? It means that any members of the ICAO or member state of United Nations can now choose to voluntarily participate or not to participate. According to the CORSIA scheme, which is designed for meeting the net zero target, is to achieve net zero by 2050, and through 3 ways, like aircraft improvement, the ground operation improvement, and the SAF. In order to achieve the net zero target, SAF is the only solution to achieve about 67% of the net zero target. This is very different from road transport, where you have different options: hybrid cars, electrical cars. For maritime industry, you can have dual fuel engines, LNG engines, ammonia engines. But for the aviation industry, SAF is the only solution and for decarbonization in the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. So this is the map to show that about the CORSIA. So at this moment, there are 120 member states or countries decided to voluntarily participate in CORSIA scheme. So on the map, it shows the green color countries, including Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, and Japan, as an example, have already decided to voluntarily participate in the CORSIA scheme. That's why you see policy announcement, for instance, leading by Singapore and other countries as well, because of this background. The blue color countries, including China, has not announced officially yet the CORSIA, the mandate policy for SAF, but expecting that China may announce policy in about 3 to 6 months' time within this year, before the deadline of mandatory will start in 2027. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's again, there's a subtle difference between diesel, gasoline, and maritime. There is a concept or definition called eligible feedstock. And also there's a way you can only use eligible pathway for use to produce eligible CORSIA SAF. So how to calculate the LCA? So there's a formula that you have to calculate that how much carbon reduction you can achieve from the point of collecting of the feedstock or waste through the production, through the processing, to the transport, up to the uplifting point at the airport. So next slide, please. Yeah, but although it's eligible feedstock, but not all the eligible feedstock are equal in terms of emission reduction factors. So this chart shows briefly to show that what reduction factor you can achieve through different pathway and different feedstock. Look at the top two, number 2, UCO, used cooking oil. According to this chart published by ICAO, it shows that UCO can achieve probably 83% of the reduction compared to conventional jet fuel, which is at 7% on the right top. So it's pretty good carbon reduction. But you look at the municipal solid waste on the process potentially by Fisher Chop. It can achieve also pretty nice carbon emission. So in a brief conclusion, there are eligible pathways and eligible feedstock here, but not all the eligible feedstock are equal in terms of emission reduction factors. So that's a very important factor when you decide to invest in this SAF production project. Next slide, please. Yeah, next, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is very, so go back. Sorry, go back. Yeah, so this is very important. One of the documentation that when airlines buy the SAF in the future or now, or the supplier of SAF supplied to airlines. So this is one of the form that ICAO required to fill in. So they can register how much tonnage of SAF you buy, and what feedstock, is it UCO, is it alcohol, and what process of conversion, let's say ATJ, MTJ, or HEFA, or Fisher Chop. Let's say I buy 10,000 tons of SAF, but what airline cares about is really the one on the far right, that through this 10,000 of SPC SAF, how much emission reduction you can achieve under the CORSIA scheme. So that's very critical information that everybody should really understand before commit to an investment. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so look at the demand and the supply. I think it's very encouraging that lots of airlines had made commitment to 2030 target. And this shows some of the leading airlines, including those in the territory of Asia region, really made serious commitment, including the Qantas, including Japan Airways, Airlines ANA, Cathay Pacific. I was visiting actually an airline to this morning who is on this list that they are making serious commitment about 10% of their annual consumption to be added, to be blended with the SAF. So typically one airline can really demand 10%, means that probably 500,000 to 1 million, depending on the size of the airlines. So this airline commitment on the far right is the commitment by the cargo, like a DHL, like a UPS and FedEx. So in brief, this market is very promising, and it will continue to grow, mainly driven by the CORSIA regulation, as well as ESG requirement in terms of scope 3. Next, please. So in order for us to achieve net zero target by 2050, I think the question is how many SAF refineries do we need in order for us to achieve that target? I'll give you some context in terms of number of refineries, in terms of fossil-based refinery we have. So currently, globally, we have about 850 refineries, fossil-based. Some are still under construction. Let's put a round number. Let's say by 5 years' time, we have 1,000 refineries, fossil-based. In order for the aviation industry to achieve net zero target by 2050, the world globally need between 3,000 to 7,000 refineries, SAF, in order to meet the target. Different from fossil-based refineries, the future or the current being built SAF refineries comparatively are smaller scale compared to fossil-based refineries, but they're scattered around different country, different area for two reasons. One is close to the feedstock. Number two is close to the airport in order to reduce the carbon footprint. So there's a huge market that we see. The trend we see in Asia is that the investment announcement is really growing very fast in different part of the country in Asia. Next, please. And then we'll talk about the Asia development. What are we doing in country in Asia? Next, please. Yeah, let's look at Japan. Japan actually has not approved the mandate yet, although it's one of the first country to start planning for SAF mandate. So this is from the documentation Japan government submitted to ICAO in terms of how they prepare for the policy and readiness of the production, and as well as the feedstock to meet that set target to be 10% by 2030. It's very interesting and useful analysis because Japan is a country where there's a very limited resource, like Korea as well, and maybe Thailand. So this chart shows that Japan analyzed what feedstock they have. For instance, UCO, you can process through HEFA. And look at the far right on the column, it shows who is investing, either Mitsui and ENEOS. But Japan is a country that there's a very limited UCO resources, probably around 200,000 tons, which is far than enough to meet their planned 10%. So Japan as a country look at other feedstock, including the algae, municipal solid waste, and in the longer future, carbon, CO2, and hydrogen. Next page. Yeah, according to Japan analysis, by 2030, if they want to meet 10% of blending ratio for their for their jet fuel consumption, it will mean that 1.4 million ton will be needed for Japan as a country to meet their target. So now it's 2026, you can see the build-up in the red line in the graph showing that there's still not enough supply in Japan to meet the current target as well as future target. Next page. Yeah, look at the Korea, South Korea. They published the mandate, announced the last year, this September, with a target blending ratio from 1% next year, 3 to 5%, and eventually go up to 7 to 10% by 2035. So South Korea is another country who is really catching up in terms of publishing the mandate for SAF. Next page, please. And Thailand, again, look at the Southeast Asia, that they have not officially announced the mandate, but we look at the not only the readiness preparation, and I think Thailand is one of the countries who already get the custom harmonized code ready. And not so many countries have this code for SAF, like China. There's no custom code. But Thailand already announced they published the customs duty code for SAF. Not only on that, Thailand also announced a number of policy or tax policy in order to encourage investment into SAF production, as well as blending investment. Next page. Yeah, next page, please. And China also there's no announcement yet officially, but quietly Chinese government or China as a country has started production already. We see some announcement and startup like Jiao Refinery like other refinery being built using the technology pathway, including from those Topsoe. They are being built. And although there's no policy yet, China is now currently exporting mainly to Europe for their neat SAF. But one thing different from other countries is that China has their own certification procedure. It's called airworthiness certification, which is very different from Europe and America. Next page. Next please. And then we look at the how this SAF developed. As Gabriel mentioned, that really the industry started probably 20 years ago to get the technology ready and the policy ready, pricing ready. So this one page show that for the last almost 15 years, the SAF industry developed in terms of regulation and standardization. So look at 2009, ASTM committee started the preparation for the ASTM 4054, which is a technical committee to review and approve the pathways. And since then till now, there are officially 8 pathways has been approved under annex as annex of 7566. So Topsoe will talk about the specific pathway later. I will not talk about it in detail. And in 2016, ICAO published the CORSIA scheme. Only in 2020, we have seen the pricing mechanism published by Argus as well as SP Global. And then only by 2023, 22, ICAO say who can approve the certification, right? ISCC and ISB. So we can see by 2024, the industry of SAF was ready in terms of technology pathway is mature, policy ready, and pricing ready, and certification body ready. So it's the time now to scale up. Next page. So if you are from a refining background, you may have to notice that there's a subtle difference in terms of quality control and the testing between conventional jet fuel or Jet A1 versus the SAF or neat SAF. So these are very limited, like over 20 different parameters, which are different between conventional jet and SAF. When you do the production readiness or when you build a laboratory, so you should not say just copy what Jet A1 is doing. You have to make sure that you follow the ASTM 7566 very specifically about those parameters listed here. Next page, please. So these are the 8 approved pathways. I'm starting with Fischer-Tropsch, HEFA, and this is under the ASTM 7566. Next page. And in addition to 8 pathway approved, there are still new pathway being reviewed and potentially approved by ASTM committee, including like MTJ in the last page, in the last one, and plus the pyrolysis oil potentially as a feedstock. Next page, please. Yeah, these are the landscape to see what has been approved by which developers in which country, and who is developing new pathways and to be queued up to be approved by ASTM committee. By the way, ASTM committee has a twice a year meeting. The next meeting will be June. There will be a ballot about the new pathway, and the next meeting will be in December. Next page. You talk about the PAC. We have been committing to invest in solution. Next page, please. In supporting the industry. We supply analytical solutions, both laboratory and online. So we have been investing since 2009, not only in developing method, standards in the committee, as well as supplying our solution to help the industry, including some of the reference are listed here. The Nestle Singapore, we supply our solution for that plant. Next page, please. including the world's first ATJ commercialized operation already in Georgia in America. Next page. And also in Malaysia, that we are very proud to supply our solution for Eco Series plant in Johor area, which officially started operation end of last year. Next page. And very proud to serve that HEFA plant in China. Next page. This is a Chinese homemade technology at nearby Shanghai. We supply a couple of instruments, over 20 units. We're very proud to serve that client, which is already start operation of this plant in Jiaxing area. Next page. And again, we are PAC not only supplying, developing, manufacture analytical instruments. Actually, we made a huge efforts in developing standard and method. So this page shows some of our solution that we develop standard and solution and test method, including critical parameters like a freezing point, thermal oxidation, sulfur, nitrogen, aromatics, and distillation flash points. Not only with ASTM, but also with ISO and the GB standard in China and the UOP standard. Next page, please. Next page, please. Yeah, so we have a leading brand globally, although our company, the head office in Houston, but these are the brands that we own 100% by PAC in different countries, Europe, Germany, France, Netherlands, UK, Canada, and US. Next page, please. Yeah, this shows you some visual idea that how our instrument and analyzer look like. If you are from refinery or commercial lab, I'm sure this image you are very familiar with. Distillation, flash points, freezing point, thermal oxidation, and aromatics, flaming jet. You just all the critical parameters. We can have one-stop solution for your future investment or current investment project. Next page. Yeah, this shows some of our plants, R&D centers. In Asia, we do have a center of excellence in Shanghai. We have a SAF application demo lab. So if you happen to be in Shanghai area, or if you'd like to come, so please come have a look at our SAF demo plant in Shanghai. Next page. Yeah, that's the end of my sharing. I hope it's on time, Gabriel.
It's all good. It's all good, right? Yeah.
So thank you very much for your patience, and welcome a question, please.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for sharing with us. Really appreciate it. Very interesting again. We'll take any questions from the audience before moving into Topsoe. Do we have any questions? Doesn't seem like at the moment. So maybe we'll give it a few seconds for the audience, or what we can propose, because we start a bit late. Samuel, if it's fine with you, maybe we move to Topsoe first session with Milica and Sylvain, and we get to stay with us, please. So if once we have questions, then we'll come back to you after the presentation of the Topsoe team. Is that right? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much, Samuel. And thank you for introducing back to everybody. So now we give the floor to our second presenters of the day from Topsoe, Milica. So Milica, very quickly, you are Project Line Director for Topsoe. You've been responsible for driving innovative solutions in renewable fuel and recycled plastics, helping to accelerate the transition to a more sustainable fuel and chemical ecosystems. If I'm not mistaken, you've been joining Topsoe in 2007, and you have a PhD in process system engineering from Imperial College London and a certificate on entrepreneurial leadership for DTU Business School. There's a lot more to say, but I'll let you complement if you want. And Sylvain, you are also working for Topsoe. You're a senior strategy manager, advising internal and external stakeholders on how to manage the energy transition with a focus on technology, regulation, sustainability, and feedstock, especially to produce renewable fuel for the road, aviation, and maritime sector. You joined Topsoe 1 year earlier than Misha in 2006.
I'm older.
And you've been working in R&D, project development, and marketing. Yeah, but there is no prize for the one that has spent the most time in the company. Okay, yeah. Not today. Maybe when for our next event, for an event in Vietnam, we do a special thing, but not today. Okay, the floor is yours. Enough of me. Floor is yours, guys. Thank you very much for it.
Good.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, thank you to the ASF team. Samuel, thank you for the very good introduction, also to set the scene. So today, Milica and I will talk about SAF today and tomorrow. So a bit of crystal ball reading. We try to we go through each pathway, try to elaborate a bit on what we see as the market trends and where our technology is going. Next slide, please. Milica, was that you? Was that me? I forgot. You. That was me. Okay, good. So SAF. We all hear about SAF. Maybe we're all in this bubble of SAF. Last year alone, I think there were more than 100 conferences on SAF. So a lot of talks, but in terms of action, we're on the left-hand side of the slide. In 2025, 0.6% of the jet fuel was SAF. How much will it be in 2050? So I took data from the Skynergy and ICF, a very good yearly report. So we know right now we use around 7 million barrels per day of jet fuel. It will grow possibly, but what will be the share? Would it be 16%, 45%, 64%? It's strongly driven by regulation. We hear more and more about the voluntary market, so I think it's taking a higher share, but it's mostly driven by regulation, and Samuel elaborated a bit about the regulation in APAC region. So where will we be? And next slide, please. Why is the share so low? It's because SAF is more expensive than the fossil counterpart, and it's going to be so for the foreseeable future. So you have the different type of SAF. So on the left-hand side, you have UCO, then the green part, ethanol to jet from first generation ethanol, and then you have the cellulosic SAF and also the eSAF in the blue boxes. And the line at the bottom is the price of fossil jet. If you look at HEFA, for example, which will be and will remain possibly some of the cheapest SAF, if not the cheapest, maybe on par with some ethanol to jet, it's still a higher premium, and it's mostly due to feedstocks. You have different evaluation, but maybe 70, 80%, 90 sometimes of the cost of HEFA is a feedstock. So when clients ask us, we want cheap HEFA, I was like, yes, give us cheap feedstocks, and we can do it. But basically, that's why the regulation are really key to have SAF deployed globally. And regulation would also shape the type of pathways proceeding. Milica, any thoughts on this slide?
No, I think it goes very nicely in a way, hand in hand also with what Samuel was talking about, you know, in terms of the demand and how do you live up to it. We'll try to maybe uncover some of the insights in the remainder of the presentation.
Next slide, please.
Yeah. I think if you go to the next slide, basically, I'll take over just briefly with a few words on Topsoe and what SAF is in Topsoe. So if we go to the next slide, Topsoe is basically a global technology licensor and a leading one, headquartered in Denmark. So we innovate, design processes that are all based around our heterogeneous catalysts, and we deploy them industrially. We have been founded in 1940 by the gentleman on the photo, Dr. Helder Topsoe, and basically since then we have grown into a company of close to 3,000 people, all while staying very true to our values, which is about perhaps perfecting chemistry for a better world and using science for the benefit of society. So today we're a leader in conventional and renewable fuels and also hydrogen of all colors. And we remain also very devoted to our research and development activities, trying to innovate and be at the forefront somehow of science and the ability to scale up all the way from nano and powder scale to industrial applications. So we go to the next slide. It's just a snapshot of some of the projects we are engaged in today. So besides renewable fuels and hydrogen, we do have other world-leading technologies, such as green hydrogen, ammonia, methanol. But I won't go into details, maybe just to mention the latest project that we have with German Aerospace Center, DLR, which is delivering a G2L e-fuels technology for their SAF research, and it's being built as we speak in Germany. If you go to the next slide, please. This is an overview of what SAF means at Topsoe. So where we are today is a world leader with about 35% of the operating market share with a Hydroflex technology. It's a hydroprocessing of fats, oils, and greases, popularly known as HEFA. However, we do believe that this pathway will play a role also when it comes to solid feedstocks in the future. However, for solid feedstocks, we further offer either through gasification pathway together with Sasol, our FT route G2L technology, or empty jet. And the same two pathways are applicable for captured CO2 and green hydrogen, so deployment as e-fuels. And finally, we have recently launched our AT-jet technology, ethanol to jet, which is differentiated ethanol technology, and we will mention a few words about that a little later on. So a lot of not yet, sorry. A lot of opportunities, I think, here, and of course, over a long time, which we will also try to address. A lot of it is short, medium, and some of it is very long term, actually. So thank you. If we go please to the next slide. We can see the footprint of our operating plants as well as those that are in construction or engineering. So we have a total of 25 operating plants producing renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel together. And if we look at that market for HVO and HEFA SAF, we have over 35% of the whole market. Well, we have started our first plant in 2010, started research on these new feedstocks way before. And this includes both the G2L and Hydroflex plants. What we also like to stress is that a large number of these are revamp projects, so the ability to utilize the existing refinery infrastructure or now even biorefinery infrastructure to make it into something bigger and more robust maybe for the future, expand to SAF from HVO production is something that we do quite a bit. If you go to the next slide, please. We address something which is specific for the HEFA technology, which we have seen in the early days of diesel, and we are also seeing it now with SAF, and that is, you could say, co-processing. It can be for diesel anything between, you could say, 0 and 100%. We have seen many plants for diesel, for renewable diesel, undergoing this journey, starting with very small amount of renewables in the feedstock and going into fully renewable mode. We also see that refiners and biorefiners are over time increasingly happy for this flexibility, maybe even flexing between fossil and renewables. But specifically, if we look at SAF, we see a lot of traction recently for this ASTM approved pathway of 5 volumetric percent renewables co-processing, specifically in the hydrotreaters. And this is interesting for several reasons. Obviously, it is a low-hanging fruit in the terms of how quickly you can put SAF product on the market, the cost, the catalyst that you have to change for this application is not cheap, but still basically there's no capex. So it is attractive from capex to opex point of view and timeline, but it is also very interesting for introduction of new feedstocks. So somehow we see that co-processing or co-introduction, then also together with renewables, is a really nice way to validate new feedstocks, and we all know that they are evolving over time, and we are really innovating in that space very much as well. So in terms of catalyst references that we have for co-processing, we have completed for diesel over 100 cycles, and we are with 7 catalyst orders hoping to match that one day for sustainable aviation fuel. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just a little snapshot of our references. Several of them, or many of them, are actually also in the region from Australia, China, Indonesia, and then maybe, let's say, even India. And we do see that there's a lot of activity in the region. Samuel also mentioned abundance of feedstock, abundance of interest, and the drivers of the airline. So we're hoping that even more is to come. Next slide, please. And now just a very brief recap on HEFA. So if we please go to the next slide. It's interesting, right? HEFA is the dominating pathway today and a total, of course, enabler, maybe even a synonym to SAF today. But it is also the main bankable, or the only bankable pathway today. However, scaling is certainly limited for different reasons. So we see that, you know, HEFA was also a very natural evolution of HVO. It is interesting because also a lot of it does offer some, you could say, opportunities. There are some, it's difficult also to predict how far HEFA can go, because some of the HVO capacity can jump over to SAF. Some of the co-processing capacity that is on stream today and coming in the coming years is in a way invisible. So I think, yeah, it's difficult to predict when will this feedstock crunch come, especially because we do have a lot of innovation in feedstock, but it is inevitable. So what we see is that, well, it's a mature pathway, bankable. It will basically remain relevant and remain an anchor pathway, but certainly the market will need to evolve. And you can also see what we have also shown on the levelized cost of SAF slide in the beginning, the big difference in terms of the price for the jet fuel made of HEFA or through HEFA pathway and e-fuels. So it's just to reiterate, HEFA is today a very solid, very de-risked pathway, a bankable one. But while we do have some ideas of what it will look like tomorrow and that it will stay relevant, there's a lot more that needs to happen within SAF space to live up to the ambition. Next slide, please. So a few things on HEFA. What is its future, and what could be some of the upsides, maybe even some of the threats, you could say. So we do think that the future will be in addition of new feedstocks, trying to utilize the existing capacity, the ability to flex between different products, the different feedstocks. So it's a really nice kind of feature of HEFA, that you can feed almost any feedstock or a very broad range of feedstocks and then flex to many different products. We see the market being global. But where we see and expect and hope for most innovation is certainly in the feedstock side. There is a downside, obviously, because HEFA is not only low-hanging fruit for aviation, it is also a very attractive pathway for marine, for also road fuels. So there will be a lot to see on how will this interplay work. And regulations were referred to several times today. Unfortunately, we do lack in, I think, every segment this holistic view of regulations in terms of prescribing where to put what feedstock. So the market is supposed to figure that out a little bit on its own. Some of the feedstocks that we do see coming in strongly are different oils from intermediate crops, nutshells. We have been processing crude tall oil from pulp and paper industry for a long time for our customers. Rubber seed oil is coming in. We also see then synthetic fatty acids or ketones made from even solid feedstocks. Biocrudes from any kind of solid feedstock, wet or dry, that you can imagine, through either pyrolysis or solvolysis, hydrothermal liquefaction as well.
Okay.
And finally, we see.
Can you call me back maybe tomorrow?
Someone is maybe unmuted. And yeah, finally, we do see plastics and plastic and tire pyrolysis oils also entering the market, and those are very easy to upgrade compared to some of the other feedstocks. Those would be the recycled carbon fuels if we look at the European terminology. So yeah, back to you, Sylvain, and I think the message here really is there's a lot of potential for evolution of HEFA, for staying relevant, but we will need other pathways. And that is what Sylvain will also talk more about.
Good. Thank you, Melissa. But let's move to the next slide. So what will come after HEFA, hopefully? So the next, so we'll talk about ethanol to jet, and then we have a few slides on comparing Fischer-Tropsch versus methanol to jet. Maybe not fully relevant yet for the APAC region, Fischer-Tropsch methanol to jet, but it's still nice to see. SAF is a global market, so we believe hopefully this would be relevant enough. So let's spend a bit of time on ethanol to jet. So that's the next deployable SAF pathway. It is, after HEFA, the most cost-efficient solution for many years to go until the cost of cellulosic jet and also eSAF decreases. So there's a lot of ethanol industry. I think Gabriel mentioned in the introduction all the work in Thailand on ethanol and the interest of ASAF to talk about ethanol to jet in the next event in June, and it's really interesting. It minimizes risk because Melissa mentioned the appetite for feedstock, for HEFA, for renewable diesel, for marine, for FAME. So it's really somehow de-risking because the price volatility of fats, oils, and greases is quite significant, and it's the main share of the cost of SAF. So I think that's a good way to de-risk also a SAF project. Use ethanol industry, the markets, the value chain. And yes, it's a mature technology. Yes, exactly. So when and why will ethanol to jet deploy? So we have basically 5 assumptions, 5 planets needs to be aligned for this to happen. First of all, we need SAF demand to grow. If we remain at a few million tons, HEFA will do the trick, and you don't need more. But as soon as the feedstocks will be limited for HEFA, renewable diesel, and FAME, then we believe first generation ethanol to jet will deploy. So, and that will be the growing demand for SAF, and it's mostly driven by regulation and incentives. Right now, the voluntary market is still important, and it will remain, but it will be a few percent. I've seen some evaluation, maybe up to 5-10% of the SAF demand in the coming years, or in the future in 2050 maybe, but it's still highly regulation driven. So we need regulation in place to help offtake and production. Advanced bio-SAF or cellulosic SAF or waste to SAF and eSAF, it would take a while before, you need to scale, you need to build the value chain. It will take a while before the cost decreases. So ethanol to jet will remain the cheaper solution after HEFA. A way to minimize carbon intensity is to do CCS. So we also see, especially was in the US, a lot of combination between ethanol producers and carbon capture. So you could really have low carbon intensity ethanol, and that could be relevant in some regions. Again, it depends on the regulatory framework and the incentive to produce low CI SAF, but that could be also another interesting integration. at one point. So second generation ethanol, which is made from cellulose. There's a few plants operating here and there, but it really didn't deploy because of, technology maturity, cost. But there will be a demand, hopefully, at one point of second generation ethanol, and that will really help deploy ethanol to jet. Some markets like EU don't want SAF from a first generation feedstock. So to have ethanol to jet allowed in EU, you would have to use 2G ethanol. But again, it depends on the regulatory framework. CORSIA allows first generation. Next slide, which would be the last slide on ethanol to jet. So, okay, it's a bit of product placement, but just to explain why we're entering, ethanol to jet. So our goal, and that's the solution we're licensing now, is to have a same or high yield as what's out there, but for a lower capex. So we're a catalyst company. I know we say we're technology, but the core of the reactor is basically catalyst. Melissa and I spent a lot of years in R&D looking at that. So it's really about having this high selective oligomerization catalyst, and then with a proven afterwards hydrogenation cat. We have a high SAF yields, and you can integrate some of the byproducts to produce a hydrogen. So we have this solution for HEFA as well that we call the H2 bridge, and here that would be similar solution also with the same name. So you can really you don't have byproducts, and you minimize your carbon intensity, and you are self-sufficient in terms of hydrogen production. So that's quite a unique trick, and we hopefully will have our first operation operating not later than 2030. But we'll have some colleagues hopefully in the Thailand event and ASAF and John, and they will be present to discuss ethanol to jet with whoever is interested. And that was the end of product placement on ethanol to jet. Okay, how much time do we have? About 10 minutes. Few slides. I know we should not do that, but go quickly through slides, but I'm going to do it anyway. But basically to compare Fischer-Tropsch versus methanol to jet. So we're licensing both technologies, and you hear a lot of myths out there. So let's go through that. So Europe and the UK, we need 18, and this is only for eSAF. You could also use this technology through gasification or biogas, but this the next 3 slides will be really focusing on eSAF. eSAF may be not relevant for use yet in APAC, but Europe and so EU and the UK will need, if mandates, at least according to mandates, we need 18 million tons of eSAF by 2050. Right now, EU is using 40 million tons of jet fuel. So it's about half of what EU is using now would be eSAF, which is a massive amount. We won't talk about how much feedstock is needed in terms of renewable energy and CO2, but really, really interesting. We believe both pathways will have a role to play. And the idea is to explain what, who, and when. So Fischer-Tropsch, if you have a centralized plants basically close to your feedstocks, and you can control the whole value chain, we believe FT is more interesting. Many investors are not always super happy with methanol to jet, because with methanol to jet, your project would depend on other methanol projects that are outside your control to happen before you get your methanol to jet process work. So basically, if you control your full value chain, and it's something that's important, we believe FT is the pathway to go. If maximum SAF yield and energy efficiency and carbon efficiency is your priority, FT has the highest yield. Many studies out there to prove that, also in terms of cost. And it's 3 process steps instead of 5 for methanol to jet. So that's really, right now, we believe if you want to make eSAF, Fischer-Tropsch is the way to go. Methanol to jet will deploy at one point. But yes, we believe this will happen when the e-methanol market will be out there. And right now, there's no demand for e-methanol. Like IMO regulation didn't proceed. The ship owners are not really interested in e-methanol. So yes, but it will happen at one point, but you need the e-methanol offtake in place. So also it's quite interesting. Many projects, as mentioned, at least on paper, they want to buy, the methanol from different producers and then have a big centralized methanol to jet, but it depends again on production of methanol. So what we did in the next 2 slides, we compared our solution with Sasol, which is Fischer-Tropsch, with methanol to jet public data. So next slides, please. And 8 minutes to go. So the first slide is about technical differentiators, and the second one is about operational differentiators. So we'll go through them from left to right. First of all is process complexity. As mentioned, Fischer-Tropsch 3 steps, methanol to jet 5, because you have 2 oligomerization steps, and this is without the electrolyzer, because both would need the electrolyzer. Fischer-Tropsch, if you recycle your naphtha, you have 100% SAF selectivity, while methanol to jet, you will always have a diesel component. And it's not on spec diesel, but you could blend it in your diesel pool, and you could have naphtha as well, if you wish. For Fischer-Tropsch, if you want e-naphtha, you could have it, but right now, the premium is not super interesting. So what we see is most people want max SAF selectivity. CO2 utilization, we'll issue a paper soon to disclose our calculations and how we did it. But based on our calculation, Fischer-Tropsch delivered 12% more SAF for the same amount of CO2. And in terms of energy, depending on the integration with electrolyzer, so is it alkaline or SOEC, solid oxide electrolyzer cells, you could have 7 to 15% more SAF for the same amount of energy. And cost, based on the yield difference and the energy efficiency, basically levelized cost will be 10 to 15% lower than methanol to jet. Again, many assumptions, but we'll elaborate that in some papers that will be soon available. Operational differentiators. So here, again, from left to right, infrastructure needs. Fischer-Tropsch is suited for centralized plants and full control value chain. Methanol to jet, it's you have decentralized methanol production, but you depend on your methanol supply chain supply. And then it could be project to project risk because you might not control, again, the methanol project. There's a lot of discussion on intermittency. Our take is that you don't build a $1 billion or euro plant not to run at full capacity. And especially 50% of the fuel cost is CapEx related. The next slide will be, you will see the impact of CapEx is really important. Unlike HEFA, where it's maybe 80, 90% is feedstocks, here for ESAF, CapEx is really important. So you want full capacity operation of these plants. Yet power intermittency is sometimes interesting, I would say, for some PowerPoint discussions. So yeah, Fischer-Tropsch can work also at under intermittency. You can turn down capacity to 20%. You have some buffer, and then methanol to jet, you can also turn down to 10% capacity. But again, I think second point is more important. Like you don't build the plant that expensive not to run full capacity. At least that's our take. A myth about Fischer-Tropsch. Many people said, oh, it's only for large scale. Not true. You have from 100% barrels per day. There's no issue, and it's proven at scale. Methanol to jet also from 100 barrels per day. Yes, to our knowledge, the selective olefin organization is not proven yet, and of course, methanol to jet is not commercially, is not STM approved yet. And yeah, I'll skip the last part, and we have 4 minutes to go. Okay, the next slides quickly, which I think the slide will be available, Fabrice. But basically, this is our levelized cost with a cost estimate breakdown. So you can have a look. And basically, it's alkaline without naphtha recycle, with naphtha recycle, and then integration with SOEC. And that's cost difference we see. But you can see each time you go one step to another, you can lower the cost. And we end up with Fischer-Tropsch being cheaper. And that's all, 4 minutes. We have the take-home messages. Melissa, do you want to take those?
Yes, well, it's very brief. I think if we go to the next slide, it is to summarize. Obviously, we have more a system challenge than a technology challenge. Technology is ready for deployment. We need to bring, obviously, still the costs down and infrastructure needs to be put in place. HEFA has been an enabler for SAF. It's a dominant pathway today, but probably in the future we will look at it as, you know, a relatively small portion, and the other pathways are going to be scaling up SAF up to 2050. ETJ, we also discussed, is more about diversification of feedstock. We will see, depending on how second generation ethanol works, where we will actually see ETJ. But we do expect the first generation ETJ to deploy relatively soon. And finally, as Sylvain just mentioned, FT and MTJ are both viable depending on the context. Basically, you will have chosen one or the other, depending on specific site feedstock and situation. And then maybe if we just go to the last slide, if we skip the next one and go to the last one, obviously there's a lot more in our Fuel for Thought podcast for any of you that are interested, because we did rush through some of it. And I can see some you could say questions are coming, which is great. And maybe I can take the first question or the only question. I'm not sure. I can only see one popping up on the sewage sludge. Should I take it?
Yes, Fabrice, is that okay?
Yeah.
Can we take the question?
Yeah. There are
Gabriel,
few questions.
Fabrice, you muted, I think.
Yeah, quite a few
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, so this one from Riva. Well, yeah, you will need to still have the ASTM approval. We think that very soon you will be able to co-process again up to 5%, probably a lot of new feedstocks, but you will not be able to have a full-blown 100% plant from sewage sludge, pyrolysis, oil, hydrothermal liquefaction, biocrude just yet.
But the company.
But it is possible to make SAF out of it. Yes.
Yeah, and the company started petitioning at STM for 100% from sewage sludge, so it's not approved yet. You can make a renewable diesel, you can make marine fuel out of it, but SAF not yet.
Yes, and then we see the one on when do we expect ETJ to start playing a significant role? And that's a good question, right? What is a significant role? We do expect slow deployment to start and ramp up towards 2035. I don't think we will see ethanol to jet meeting or half a capacity as we see today for probably not before 2040 or beyond, right? That's the thing. It takes time.
It also depends on the interest of the ethanol industry and the whole value chain. So Fabrice, you want to say something?
No, that's exactly what you said. I think the technology exists, right? So it's more about, okay, can we get cheap feedstock and make it financially viable and competing against HEFA technology. So, but as you mentioned, I think the point is like with HEFA, we're going to reach a capacity threshold. So once we get that capacity threshold, then the price of HEFA SAF is going to likely increase as well, right? And A2J at the opposite, we're going to decrease. So at one point in time, we might cross that line. The question is when exactly, and I don't think nobody has a crystal ball yet. Or if you have them, tell me, because then I would like to play. We got to bargain next week, but I think it's I mean, again, this is needed, and this is going to be interesting, right? But okay, that's also a view. Sharing that with you guys.
Cool, but I think we are at the end.
And I don't think we did a question. We did a comparison on biomass gasification to bioethanol to methanol, maybe it's a confusing question.
We're gonna have to invite. Yeah, we're gonna have to invite you again, guys, and also we invite our audience to follow you on your regular discussions, exchanges, and live, because you guys have your very good. Sorry, I'm looking for my words. Sylvain and Milicia, that you are doing live on a regular basis, right? So please join them live, and again, we're gonna invite you again. You're gonna be with us in Thailand, maybe not in Vietnam, but in Thailand for sure, for our upcoming event, end of June. I would like to thank Samuel and you guys for the presentation today. Okay. And last thing is just about our training. So we are launching. We're gonna launch second half of the year training, and we hope that you can tell us what you think, what would be of interest for you, and what topic we should cover. So please take that QR code, connect on it, and fill the form. And I think this is going to be very valuable for us to get your feedback and how we can help the industry in Asia Pacific to ramp up and to develop, using, of course, the support of our members and experts like Milicia, Sylvain, and Samuel. And build a resilient ecosystem, competitive in terms of sustainability, but in terms of sustainability as well, which are very important to us. So again, finish. Thank you very much, guys. We rush out of time. Talk soon, and hope you enjoyed the session. Bye, guys.
So much.
Thanks again.
everyone.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.